Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking books. Today I'm going to be talking about my 5 top adventure books. Now it's New Year's Eve today. Happy New Year! Now we're done with 2020. In comes 2021. Tomorrow it's going to be a hell of a lot better than 2020. I can promise you that. So mark my words, we need to kick it off with some inspiration and motivation of adventure. Now I've picked my top 5 adventure books. It was pretty tricky. I reckon I could have done top 10, but we need to start slow. You know, we've got a whole year to manage here. Let's just start with 5 and see where we get to. In some sort of particular order.
Number 5.
What do we got? Facing Up. Now you probably know this familiar face. I've talked about him on this channel before. I promise I'll stop talking about him a little bit. But Bear Grylls, I think his first book he ever wrote, it's about him summiting Everest at the age of 23. At the time, he became the first Briton to do so. It's not just about that, it's about defying the odds. Bear broke his back in a parachuting accident, and he promised himself then that he would climb Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. I have to say, this was the first non-fiction book I read as a teenager that I really got stuck into. Up until then, I just read fiction books. But this, I couldn't put it down, so it had to be on my list. So, thank you, Bear.
Number 4.
Is Higher Love. Higher Love by Kit Des Lauriers. Kit's achievements in this book, let's just start with that. She skied all 7 summits. Now imagine that, we're not just climbing them, we are skiing them. And she was the first person, yes, you heard that right, person, none of this woman-men thing, first person to do so. It is such a gnarly book, but it's combined with romance, it's combined with vulnerability, it's combined with being a woman in, let's face it, a man's world. I could definitely relate to it, I think you could too, and it's also an insight into how she managed to fund such a big project. Very, very human. To top it off, there's a huge amount written about her dog. I say dog, it's pretty much a wolf. She had a wolf. Yes, if that isn't a reason to read it, then I don't know what is. She skied the 7 summits and she owned a wolf. Kick ass or what?
Number 3.
No shortcuts to the top. Ed Vestris. This book deserves to be on your bookshelf. If you are a climber or want to do any sort of extreme adventure at all, this needs to be on your bookshelf, and I will tell you why. This book is a rule book. It's a handbook of how to manage yourself and teams on the mountain. There's a reason this guy is still alive today, and so many other climbers, including his friends, are not. You really get what the important bits are when climbing. There are no egos in this book, as there should be. There should not be any egos on the mountain whatsoever. He really highlights that. And Ed was the one who said the quote that I live by in the mountains, so should you. Getting to the top is optional, but getting down is mandatory. That essentially means you can get to the top all you want, but if you don't come down, then what the hell is the point? Injuries on the descent of climbing mountains are far higher than on the ascent. You have to leave enough fuel in the tank to get back down. So if for whatever reason you have a doubt of getting to that summit, turn around. Summit fever is not welcome on the mountain. Summit fever, if you don't know what it is when people get so caught up in their head, they really, really, really want to get to the top and they won't let anything stand in the way. So they make the bad decisions, which in turn ends up with mistakes being made, problems happening, and injuries and real bad problems occurring. I've read this book a couple of times. I also can highly recommend it on audiobook. Get yourself Audible, listen to this. It's really, really easy to listen to. Just love it. Just such a good look into the world of high altitude mountaineering and the way to do it. It's not just for climbers. Go read it. It's an incredible read.
Number 2.
I could not do a top adventure book list without including Wild, Cheryl Strayed. Wild is a journey of discovery. You may have seen the film. I have to confess, I did see the film before I read the book. I read the book very quickly after seeing the film, and I can say the film is a very, very good depiction of what the book is. This book is fierce. This book is honest. Cheryl goes from a time in her life where she hasn't done any outdoor things, let alone a through hike, and she decides to go on the Pacific Crest Trail in America. A massive long distance hike, not knowing anything. You see her from getting her equipment to not having the right fuel to getting the wrong boots. All these little mistakes, but intertwined is her story and why she's doing this hike. It really shows you the benefits of being in the outdoors, and I think it's in the book where she describes, the wilderness has the ability to fill you up again. When you're feeling the lowest of the low, go into the outdoors and it will fill you up with energy.
I think the trail is good for that. I mean, look. This has the power to fill you up again if you let it.
The funny thing about this book is I actually read this and I was going through a sort of crossroads at the time. So I decided I wanted to go on a proper long distance hike. Sadly not the Pacific Crest Trail. Made up a hike across Spain, not the Camino, but something else that I just figured out on a map. And it was weird. It was like I was copying Wild. I made all the same rookie mistakes that she made. My boots were too small. There was snow on the trail that I couldn't pass. I was hitchhiking places. I don't know, it was like the outdoor gods were trying to play a trick on me or something. Read this book. It's such a good journey. You won't regret it. Now, my top book for this list is, drumroll please, it is none other than Sir Ranulph Fiennes, Mad, Bad and Dangerous to Know. What a title for a book. There is a reason why Sir Ranulph is known as the world's greatest living explorer, and it's in this book. You probably know Ran because he chopped his fingers off after frostbite. Yes, that's in here, but there is so much more to his life. He has lived a full life. I can guarantee that when you read this book, you'll understand why. To give you a little insight, he was a rebel when he was younger. He caused some absolute chaos when he was younger. He's found lost cities. He's done loads of polar expeditions. He's done the mountains. He's done it all, and the way he writes in this is so him. It's so matter of fact. I love it. It's just, this happened, oh, and then this happened, and we're talking about some pretty crazy stuff that goes on. Ran is a naturally gifted writer. I've seen him in the Royal Geographical Society with his briefcase, writing away his new books. He just writes those new books like it's easy, like it's nothing. He's a gifted, natural storyteller. He also proves that age is just a number. He's in his 70s now. He's still going. Let me read you something from this book. It's not about his fingers, but it is in fact about frozen toes. Right, I won't put a Ran voice on, but I will sit up straight. Next day, we set out on time. I felt no pain throughout the day and was surprised when, back in the tent, Mike swore aloud on removing the dressing. What appeared to be the outer half of my little toe and a segment of flesh had come away with the bandage. A large area of raw flesh and bone was left exposed, which felt, as soon as my foot warmed up and blood returned to the nerve ends, as though it were on fire. And just like that, he describes what would just be absolutely agony. Ran is a hell of a guy, and I think everyone, to understand just why he's called the greatest living explorer, needs to read this book, and you'll totally get it. Let's forget about the fact that he chopped off his fingers, although there's a great reason he did chop off his fingers, which is in this book, and you kind of go, yeah, fair enough.
I bought a Black & Decker and a micro blade, and my late wife, brought me cups of tea, and it took 2 days to get through the thumb by sort of turning it round. And if it hurt or bled, then you move the saw further away. Read
this for just a roller coaster ride of adventure stories. When you think of Ran, you think of success. You think of a man who has just achieved everything he set out to do in his life. That's not true. Ran has had his fair share, if not more than many people's share of failures. He really proves that you just have to get up on that horse and try again, even when you're talking about these massive adventures that he does that cost just, I can't imagine what the costs were. But he always tries again, and he almost always succeeds. It's awesome, it's adventure, it needs to be on your bookshelf. Best inspiration you can get. So those are my top 5 adventure books. Get yourself down to the bookshop. It's the best way to start 2021. Start it right, start it but with a bit of inspiration. What adventure are you going to have this year? Because this will kickstart it. I'm Lucy, this is my adventure channel. I upload a video every 2 weeks at 2 p.m. on a Thursday. So please hit subscribe. I'm new here, so every little helps. Please share far and wide with your friends. Next video is going to be super fun, so I can't wait to see you there.